Welcome back to the inner space. I'm Sriram. In the last few episodes, we have explored self doubt, the feeling of I am not good enough, the sense of inadequacy. We've understood the various causes of self doubt in the human psyche and the impact it has on multiple domains of our life, including our mental and physical well being. Today, we explore worth and dignity, that which is already present and available when the voice of inadequacy has quietened. We explore what self worth even means in a world that ties worth to so many things. Human worth is so often confused with status, money, rank, and more when it has nothing to do with that in its essence. So, what does it mean to be worthy as a human being then? And equally important, what does it not mean? How can you tell where you are living from? We will learn from present day stories and historical revolutions, from young leaders to veteran actors. The French Revolution, in particular, is something we will explore, where people fought to protect their dignity and rights as human beings. Through this episode, my hope is that you will remember your inheritances and the endowments of your lineage and your heritage, not just the tangible and perhaps perishable assets, but the intangible imperishables of honor and dignity to human life. And as always, we will learn simple practices and skills to live from and act from our true sense of worth. So let's dive in. What is worthiness? What is self worth? What does it mean to be a worthy human being? Worthiness is intrinsic preciousness. Self worth is the knowing that one is precious just because one exists. The knowing that you are precious just because you exist. It is the preciousness and value of life itself. Valuable not because of something, but for its own sake. Over time, value for us has come to mean the value that society attributes through approval, according status, financial measure, rank, and so on. But human worth is immeasurable. When we know that worthiness of a person, we treat them with great respect, humility, and care. Think of a time when someone treated you as a worthy human being and accorded you great respect and complete dignity. How did it make you feel? Now, think of a time when you treated someone differently. The moment you found out who they were. Maybe this was a person of high station or authority in your eyes, or a peer whose life circumstances changed overnight, for good or bad, or someone you felt merited less respect for whatever reason. Did you accord them more or less respect? In what ways did your behavior change when you found out more about them? Was their worthiness in your eyes conditional upon something? Conditional regard is something we explored in episode 3. As a relationship between parents and children, it's a way of being that we learn very early on, and it very much exists between adults too. Here's one story that brings it to light from Hollywood. The famed actor and Oscar winner Jamie Foxx shares in an interview a humorous anecdote from the shooting of the film Collateral, where he stars alongside Tom Cruise. In one action sequence that was meant to be a simulated car crash, with Jamie Foxx driving the car and Tom Cruise in the passenger seat. The shot resulted in an actual collision with both actors sitting inside the car. The crew rushed over, and as the two actors stumbled out of the car, the crew shoved Jamie Foxx aside and yelled, "Tom, are you okay?" In the interview, Jamie is seen laughing about it, somewhat nervously. I wonder if any part of him wonders if his team didn't consider his life as valuable as Tom Cruise's. And if so, why? History has constantly attempted to teach us to place a value on human life. Sometimes this shows up as racism, sometimes classism, sometimes a bias towards a particular gender, ethnicity, or community. When traveling in Turkey, in the surreal city of Cappadocia, I was once denied entry into a popular European restaurant in the city. I was told that there were no tables available, even though a peek through the slightly open door revealed that 8 to 9 out of 10 tables were empty inside. Right behind me came a white person who had no reservations either. He was ushered in. When I demanded an explanation for what I had just witnessed, none was offered, just silence. Such changes in demeanor are worth pausing and noticing for a moment. There is an underlying belief that X or Y reasons or conditions make one person more worthy than someone else, and in extreme cases, one person's life more valuable than another's. If we judge another person's value by some standard, could it be that we also judge a part of ourselves by the same standard and treat that part of ourselves less kindly and with lesser dignity because we don't satisfy those conditions ourselves either at times? Respect and dignity are universal human rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the United Nations after World War II in 1948, opens with the following statement: all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Dignity is inherent to every human being, and respect flows from that recognition of dignity. It's the behavioral expression of acknowledging someone's worth. What is dignity? Donna Hicks is a noted conflict resolution expert at the Weatherhead Center for International Affairs at Harvard University. She's facilitated dialogues in numerous unofficial diplomatic efforts in conflict ridden regions like the Middle East, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Colombia, Cuba, Libya, Syria, and so on. She shares a beautiful definition of dignity in her book by the same name, is the internal state of peace that comes with the recognition and acceptance of the value and vulnerability of all living things. This statement has three parts to it. First, that dignity is an internal state, a moment of stillness that we know within us when we stand in our full grace. Second, it comes with an opening of the heart through an act of embracing and accepting. And third, the statement lays out what it is that is being embraced and acknowledged. It is the preciousness and vulnerability, the fragility and anti fragility of all living things, of life itself. We may have all experienced what it means to stand in our dignity and worth, and how it feels to be slighted or devalued for some extrinsic reason. And history reminds us when dignity is denied, the human spirit will rise to defend it. In the late 18th century, during the French Revolution, citizens across France, workers, peasants, ordinary people, rose up not just for bread or justice, but for dignity. They had lived in a world where worth was assigned by birth. Nobility mattered, poverty didn't. But in the face of crushing inequality, they declared something radical, that human worth is not inherited through titles or wealth, that the dignity of a baker, a teacher, or a servant is no less than that of a king or a queen. Their uprising wasn't perfect, it was turbulent and painful, but at its heart was a fierce reclaiming of what has always been true for humanity, that I am equal in dignity to every living being, that you are equal in dignity to every living being. That spirit of reclaiming, of standing for one's humanity, lives quietly in many small moments today in all of our lives. Every time you stand up straight and walk tall with your dignity intact, you affirm that your worth doesn't need to be earned. Every time you speak a need of yours clearly, remembering that you deserve whatever it is that you need, you reclaim that worth. Every time you meet yourself in the mirror without shame or resentment, you acknowledge that your worth is not conditional upon anything external. It only needs to be remembered and acknowledged. What would it take to treat every human being with the dignity and respect that they inherently are worthy of? Clayton Christensen, the late great American academic, also at Harvard, had a counterintuitive view on this. In his book, How Will You Measure Your Life? He said, It's easier to hold your principles 100% of the time than it is to hold them 98% of the time. Think of the energy we expend under the paradigm of conditional worth. When we meet someone new or even someone we know, we constantly place them under a scanner, constantly thinking or evaluating. What is this person's status? What are their beliefs? Are their belief systems aligned with mine or different to mine? What is their financial worth? What family do they come from? Where did they study? Where did they go to school? How successful are they in their career? We ask several questions subconsciously or unconsciously, constantly evaluating if this person is worthy of our unconditional acceptance. The amount of energy it takes to do something conditionally is, in fact, much higher than to do it unconditionally 100% of the time. This idea changes how individuals behave in systems, how leaders could behave in organizations. Often, we complain of low ownership or agency in teams and units. What if we started from a different premise that people enter an organization with full ownership and positive intent? Hersey and Blanchard, two leadership experts from the 60s, called this being an enthusiastic beginner. We've all experienced being an enthusiastic beginner, be it when we joined a new workplace, a new project, a new relationship, or a new institution. However, that enthusiasm and ownership is affected when often unconscious violations of dignity occur through team actions, many of which may have been unconscious. A passing remark, a quiet gesture, a silent disapproval. Every dignity violation, whether it happens to us or by us, fractures full collective ownership in a system. Disillusionment and disenfranchisement is born then. Acknowledging dignity in ourselves and each other helps maintain the integrity of the system and its people's intentions. Acknowledging each other's intrinsic self worth allows us to respond to those same moments differently by stating our needs, expressing what we are actually feeling rather than being silent, judgmental. With an understanding of this definition and a commitment to acknowledge and uplift the dignity of ourselves and each other, systems and societies, here is a question for you to reflect. How would your presence in relationships shift if you treated every human being with unconditional regard? In your presence, people may see themselves as worthy and act in such manner. You may become a beacon of possibility in the lives of those around you. Of course, this must be genuine. To be ingenuine already strips another of the dignity of being treated in a truthful, transparent manner. And of course, there may be times when there is deep hurt or shock due to other people's past actions. It may feel impossible to see someone as worthy of unconditional respect because of what they have done in the past. And that's okay too. Hurt can sometimes take time to heal as it waits for unconditional love before it can breathe and release the strong hold that past pain has on it. With that deep breath and release, someday the possibility may arise of changing absolutely nothing except offering dignity and respect to the other party. The possibility that conflict and difference in opinion can be sustained and sometimes even resolved with dignity intact. Sometimes the deepest conflict we navigate isn't with someone on the outside, it's with ourselves. Between the part that's been shaped by fear and societal norming, and the part that quietly remembers our worth. I want to share a story that has stayed with me. It comes from my coaching work, and it's a story I carry with deep respect. I once coached a thoughtful, high potential professional, a young leader from a community that has historically faced systemic barriers. When he came to coaching, he spoke of feeling like he wasn't living up to his full potential. And one clear sign of this was his inability to speak up at critical junctures in meetings. No matter how much he prepared or how valuable his insights were, when the moment came to speak up, something held him back in silence. As we explored what happens in those moments, he shared the kinds of thoughts that would arise. Maybe I'm not ready yet. Maybe what I need to share is not yet perfect. Maybe this isn't the right time for me to speak. Maybe I'll be judged. As we went deeper, we traced this hesitation back to something much older than his workplace. He spoke of growing up with a well intentioned but cautionary message from his mother. Be careful at school, she used to tell him growing up. Learn how to behave like the others. Don't stand out too much because we are different. You will be judged differently. Your behaviors will be measured to a different standard than what is held for the rest. That message, born out of unconditional love and a wish for a child to thrive and survive, took root in him as a subconscious belief that approval makes me worthy. Someone else or some group's approval makes me worthy of speaking, of being heard, or of taking up space. And as we discussed it further, it became clear that over the years, this belief had unconsciously become only approval makes me worthy. It was a small word that had been added on silently, unconsciously, through the years growing up, but it implied a world of difference in how worthy he felt going through life. If approval is the only thing that can make one feel worthy, there's little room to play, express, and fully be oneself. When we reached this insight together, there was a long silence. It was a moment of deep recognition for him and for me, a glimpse into the invisible conditioning that so many carry, especially those of us who grew up in environments where difference is met not with celebration but with scrutiny. In that moment, I gently asked him, "Is this belief really true for you today? That only approval makes you worthy?" And after a long pause, he whispered, "No, it's not true anymore. In fact, it never was." And then I asked him, "What makes you worthy, if not approval?" And in the light of that question, he straightened up, looked me in the eye, and said with a quiet strength that for the first time spoke in our sessions, "I make me worthy. I make me worthy." We let that phrase land in the space. We practiced saying it, not just in his mind, but in his body, letting his muscles, his breath, and his nervous system remember it, not as an affirmation to repeat or to memorize, but as a truth to come back home to. Fast forward 3 months, he returned back to session and had a special update for me. "I have something to tell you, Sriram," he said. "I've been promoted." I was stunned. The sequence of events that led him there in those 3 months could never have been predicted or planned, and yet his own transformation had prepared him perfectly. His manager, who'd been going away on a vacation and would typically cancel meetings with senior leadership when away, had instead asked him to lead one meeting this time. And in that meeting, this individual, speaking and leading from the truth that "I make me worthy," delivered so powerfully that his senior leadership took notice. They finally saw the same potential that he had always carried and was now finally expressing. His promotion wasn't just a happenstance reward, it was a reflection of a deeper shift, that his self worth was no longer borrowed, it had been reclaimed and re established for what it always was: intrinsic and complete. That moment of recognition that "I make me worthy" wasn't just a sentence, it was cellular memory being reawakened, a truth that had always been present and was finally being felt in the bones. And it reminds us that worth doesn't need permission, it doesn't arrive after approval, it always was, and it is unconditionally yours to own, to remember, and to live from. So, what does unconditional respect and worth look like? To behold a person or an object, and especially oneself, in a state of constant wonder, to be in awe of everything a person or an object has accomplished, to be in a state of a constant wow when in the presence of life. When we see things unconditionally, without labels or judgments, the accomplishments of every human being and every living thing on the planet are a vast list. Every human being has battled the difficult journey of birth through their mother's birth canal, shifting from a completely different environment inside the womb to the world outside. Every human body has, in some small or big way, moved through illness with the best possible resilience and grace. Every human mind has struggled with conflicting voices and found its light, even if it was only a single moment of blinding clarity. We can become present to the various challenges, struggles, and upheavals that each human being on the planet has surmounted. No man is without struggle. We become honoring of the true and full potential of personhood. Accomplishment becomes a 24/7 reality wherever we look, wherever we turn. And when we do this for ourselves first, seeing ourselves this way, we have done it for all humanity. You can behold yourself with wonder. You can hold a jaw dropping awe for the roads you've traversed, the mountains you've climbed, and the oceans that you've crossed to be who you are today and where you are today. You can acknowledge the difficult moments, the lows and the failures that you've overcome to be where you are today. You can celebrate the many gifts and strengths and successes, big or small, that you've attained along the way. We can each choose to walk in the wow of being ourself. So here's a question for you to reflect. What highs and lows, mountains and oceans have decorated your life journey so far? In remembering your road to the present, what parts of your worthiness can you reclaim? This is true for objects too, that we otherwise judge away as being inanimate. Consider the phone that you hold in your hand. It has an intrinsic worthiness simply because it exists. It is the coming together of millions of thought streams across time that served to conceptualize and imagine, design and engineer, ship, stock, and ultimately retail it till it found its way into your hands. It is the coming together of precious metal whose essential atoms were forged in the crucibles of molten stars billions of light years away, until they came into the Milky Way and, in time, found themselves on the Earth before they became solid metal and were then mined, processed, and forged into the device that you hold in your hand. Even now, in order for your phone to function, in order for you to listen to these words that are coming through from a time in the past into your ears and your consciousness in the present, thousands of people and teams around the world have worked and are working to keep the internet, its myriad apps and technologies and infrastructures running so that you could experience this moment. So, wow, what a journey your phone has had and continues to be on. Each moment of its existence that you enjoy is a celebration of its intrinsic worth. When we account for the many interdependent factors that come together each moment for someone or something to exist, we encounter and uncover a sturdy, indelible worthiness of existence that comes from the realization of how precious that object is or that person is just because they exist. All creation, all of a sudden, is instantly and wildly worthy. So here's something for you to reflect. Think of a person or an object in your life, could be anyone or anything. Reflect on this person or this object's journey that has brought them to where they are as they are today. What are the many interdependent and innumerable influences and factors that have all come together to allow this person or this object to be as they are today? See if you can find a moment of acknowledging the preciousness just because this person or this object exists. Worthiness is preciousness. Every person is worthy and precious. Every object is worthy and precious. In Latin, the two words worthy and precious both trace their origins back to the word value. Worth comes from the Proto Indo European root ver, which means to turn or become. In each moment, a person or a thing is becoming valuable. The word universe, for example, comes from the same root, uni plus verse. Uni being one, and verse coming from ver, which is to turn or to become. The word universe then means to turn into or to become one. Each person is a universe unto themselves, each object a universe unto itself. Worthiness is that constant state of becoming. As we, the living stardust, cross a new chasm of life, we constantly become something altogether new, thereby deepening in our worth. All this is not to be confused with what worthiness is not. Worthiness does not mean pride, arrogance, or entitlement. Pride says, I am better. Arrogance says, I am all that matters. And entitlement says, I am owed everything that I want. Worthiness simply says, I am enough. I am enough just as I am. I shine as the everyday diamond that I already am. And as a shiny diamond, I shine light on the diamonds that others already are too. Worthiness is the remembrance that I am enough. It is self love. It is self acknowledgement. We are simply acknowledging our own innate nature. And in reclaiming our worthiness, we are acknowledging that we too deserve respect. We too deserve love and abundance. We do not know when and how all that we deserve will come our way. What we do know is that we are not undeserving of it. We are as worthy as the next person. In abundance, we even know and trust that there is enough for ourselves and to share with everyone. So, in reclaiming our own worthiness, we give everyone an opportunity to reclaim theirs. So, what simple actions can help us reclaim our worthiness? Alongside this episode, we are sharing a set of 9 living practices that help rebuild your sense of worth, not through theory, but through small embodied actions. These practices fall into a few broad categories: practices of embodiment, like walking from worth and standing tall, or even dressing with dignity, so that our worth is anchored not just in thought but in posture and presence. Practices of expression, to speak your feelings clearly, to make a worthy ask, or to hold a boundary with dignity and care. And then practices in reflection, like journaling from a voice of worth, mirror work, and self permission. Now, these aren't just poetic ideas, they are grounded in what science is discovering as being beneficial. A 2016 study found that looking at yourself in the mirror and speaking self compassionate statements significantly boosted emotional calm and heart rate variability. Journaling from the perspective of self worth strengthens clarity and value alignment. Walking upright has been shown to increase confidence, lower fear, and sustain positive self talk during stress. Research on emotional expression confirms that naming your feelings clearly strengthens your resilience and reduces overthinking and rumination. Setting boundaries, a practice that we will look at as well, is linked to reduced anxiety and greater life satisfaction, especially for those prone to people pleasing. Even something as simple as dressing with intent, not for others, but to affirm your own dignity, can shift your energy and engagement in a given situation, thanks to what researchers today call enclothed cognition. These small shifts matter. They don't just change your mindset, they change your nervous system. So be sure to check out the practices that release alongside this episode. They are here to help you not just think about worthiness, but to live and act from it. How could you embody worth in your everyday behavior? Worthiness isn't just a feeling or a thought, it's a posture, it's a tone, it's a way of being. Here are some ways that a person can root into their worth as they move through the world. By walking upright and standing steady with a spine that's straight and knows that it is supported in this world. By stating your real feelings without blame or apology. By asking for what you deserve without shrinking within, because you know that you are deserving. By drawing boundaries with clarity and care. By respecting others' dignity and affirming their worth, treating everyone as equal, regardless of title, wealth, or status. By doing labor with dignity and honoring your time as something precious, something sacred. A lot of this you may already be doing in your everyday life. They are simply signs to notice, moments when you're already walking in the direction of your worth. Let's look at a few micro practices for an everyday remembrance of our worthiness. Because while worth can be felt in how we stand, speak, and show up, it can also be nurtured in the quiet moments that no one sees. Moments when we meet ourselves gently, when we stop waiting for permission, when we choose to live like we matter. The practices that follow are small, everyday rituals, not to be performed, but to evoke remembrance. Each one an invitation to return to your inherent value, not by trying or doing harder, but by softening into what you already are. The permission slip, practicing self granting. We are often waiting for someone else to say it's okay or to validate what we want. This practice helps you give yourself permission. For this practice, you need a sheet of paper. This could be a page in your journal, or a sticky note. When you are ready, let us begin. Now, with your sheet of paper in front of you, write yourself a literal permission slip. The question for you to reflect on is, what could you give yourself permission for? Then, on each separate sheet, write a sentence giving yourself the permission for this. Here are some examples. I give myself the permission to rest today. You have the permission to say no whenever you need. I give myself permission to say no without explanation. I give myself permission to not have it all figured out. Go ahead and write down a few permission slips in response to the question, what could you give yourself permission for? And when you are done, fold your permission slips and place them where you can access them anytime. If you wish to, you can also place it where you can see it clearly. Let this be your reminder that you don't need someone else's permission to be yourself and to do what feels right for you. When you're doing this exercise, you may feel resistance, and that's normal. You've been trained to seek permission externally. This is about reclaiming what was always yours. So, whenever you feel constrained by expectation, return to this practice to access your inner authority. You have the right to choose your own rhythm. Giving yourself permission is a way of grounding in your inner strength, a way of treating yourself like you would your best friend. Asking with worth, practicing deservedness. Welcome to this practice on asking and making requests, not from lack, but from worth. Think of something that you've been hesitating to ask someone for. It could be something big or small. It could be help that you've been hesitating to ask for, time, space, or kindness. And write this down. When you are ready, speak the ask clearly to the person involved. You can use the following sentence structure. I need dash, and I'd like to ask if you are willing to dash. I need dash, and I'd like to ask if you are willing to dash. Here are a few examples. I need some quiet time this evening, and I'd like to ask if you'd be willing to cook dinner. I need more clarity on this project, and I'd like to ask if you're willing to do a short check-in next week. Another variation of the sentence shape could be: would you be open to dash? It would really help me with dash. Would you be open to dash? It would really help me with dash. Here are a few examples. Would you be open to picking up the groceries this time? It would really help me finish this deadline. Would you be open to responding to that email? It would really help me get back home in time for dinner with my family. Before you state your needs, take a breath and affirm to yourself, my needs matter. I am not asking because I am failing or because I can't. I am asking because I matter and my needs matter. And it's okay to ask. Remember to ensure that your needs be in line with upholding the dignity and worthiness of the person that you are asking. Research shows that helping and acts of giving stimulate the happy hormones serotonin and oxytocin in our body. So, why not give someone else a chance to feel good by helping you out if they could and if they be willing? When you make such asks, you may feel awkward or tight in the body. That's okay. You're building the strength to ask without shame, to stand inside your own deservingness while holding dignity and respect both for yourself and the other person. So, repeat this practice whenever you notice yourself staying silent out of fear when you actually need something for yourself. Asking isn't a weakness, it's a sign that you remember your own worth and you are willing to be helped by someone else. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Inner Space and for being open to reclaiming and rejoicing in your own worthiness. If there's one message to take with you today, it's this: your worth is not a reward or something you earn. It's not a reward for performance. It's not a status that you earn. To perform and to seek status, there is nothing wrong with these. What's important is to know that that's not where your worth sources itself from. Your worth is the steady truth of your being. It's the sacred yes of your existence. And yet, it's so easy to forget at times. That's why remembering our worth isn't a one time event, it's a daily rhythm, a way of walking, a way of choosing. The practices that we have shared today, from mirror work to asking, from walking tall to receiving fully, these are all invitations to keep remembering, not through striving, but through presence. New tracks to the inner space release every Tuesday, along with guided meditations, journaling prompts, and living practices to help you deepen your journey. If something in today's episode resonated, I invite you to share it with someone who needs it. And if you haven't already, follow the podcast so you never miss what's next. May this week be one where you walk in your worth. Until next time, stay soft, stay steady, and stay true.